Lifestyle Pirates with Big J and Adriano.
Okay, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the first episode of Lifestyle Pirates for 2021. Wishing all our listeners, subscribers, viewers a very happy new year.
Happy New Year.
But also happy new year to our guest this morning, first one of the year.
Happy New Year, gents.
Happy New Year, Graham. How are you?
Very well.
Thanks for coming in.
How was the celebration?
Fantastic. Yeah, it was obviously it's a strange time we're living in, but I was very, very fortunate. Obviously, where we're living and could catch up with friends, and it's not normal, but it's it's still a good time and like a good celebration and good break, and just sort of box off the year. And obviously, 2021, fingers crossed, we're ever going to go in the right direction, and we're going to have a good year. So.
And you brought a little friend along with you this morning. Who's this guy?
I did. This is Sidney, the Opera Mouse. The star of this book that we'll be discussing a bit later on today.
And I'm so excited because I think last time I spoke to you, it was probably about nearly a year ago, maybe 8 months, 10 months, definitely pre-COVID.
Yeah,
that's all I saw.
Yeah,
was this soft toy that you were carrying around Sydney all the time. We've got more followers on Instagram than we have, so get liking our page. But mate, tell us, how did it come about?
as in the whole story, the book.
Yeah,
or
the book. Yeah.
So. It's a bit of a strange thing. So I think with a group of friends, we'd be discussing around that time, a lot of friends of ours had either had side businesses or side hustles, and it was quite a lot in the press at the time of people doing various things. So it was kind of in the back of my mind, I thought maybe there's something you can do outside of your day job that might be quite fun. And one Saturday we had a lot of friends just doing a little walk on Sidney across the heads, looking back towards the Opera House, and it was a bit of those sort of light bulb moment. Seeing, I thought, Sidney Opera Mouse, that could be a thing. It could be a little toy. It could be something.
Like it literally came to you then?
It was literally just looking at it, just in that mindset of talking about various ideas and businesses and things, and literally just saw it and went, Sidney Opera Mouse, and just sort of said it to my friends. They're like, that's not bad. And then from there, I thought, maybe that could be a story. Maybe that's something we could work on and see what's going on. Kind of put it aside, sort of didn't really think too much about it, was never really going to pursue it. And then I think it was probably 2 weeks later, I had dinner with friends, and they had a young child at the time. Just in conversation at dinner, as you're talking, have a glass of wine, I sort of mentioned this to them. And one of them just said, look, that's a lot better than what we'd normally read to our child. It's quite interesting. It's very Sidney. Just give it a go. I thought, well, why not? I'll have a stab. And yeah, that's kind of how it started.
I love that. So in the 2 weeks that you'd kind of planted this seed and then brought it up again, did you start to think about the theme, the character, the story? Like, how did all that kind of come about?
Yeah, I think I did. I'd kind of, I suppose, maybe jotted a few notes down and just sort of had a rough idea. I think straight away I knew the character was going to be called Sidney Opera Mouse. I knew it was going to be spelt with an I and be a name. And I always knew it was going to be some sort of journey where he has to see the city. So how it all kind of came together was, Sydney's a fantastic city. It's got so many things that are just unique to the world. It's got the Opera House, the bridge, the ferries. And I just wanted to incorporate as much of that into it as possible. So I had a few sort of notes and jotted down. But until I'd had that sort of encouragement and that chat, I thought, I've not really written much since school, really. There's nothing that there was, a burning desire to write a book. Everyone sort of says they've got a book in them, but it was never kind of on my life to-do list to do. But when I started doing that, the process, I just found it really enjoyable. It's quite cathartic. It's just nice to be creative. So yeah, I think that's probably where it started. Like I say, that little seed and that little nudge from a friend just to go, give it a go. What's the worst that's going to happen? You might try and write it, and if it's rubbish, nothing happens. Handful of people you've told, it doesn't matter. But obviously, it's it worked out slightly better than that in the long run. So.
Absolutely. And so you mentioned that you did writing at school. So was this something you always wanted to come back to? Was it always kind of in the back of your mind?
Like I say, I wouldn't say I'd had that sort of defining sort of goal to write a book, but I think everyone thinks they've got an idea, or think their idea is brilliant. But I did enjoy it. So like in English and things in school, when you talk about stories, there's probably quite a few. It's one of the things in school I probably enjoyed more than other things. Just having that creative outlet and getting your voice on the paper, I think it's just for everyone. If there's something you can do that's creative, I think it's just a great outlet generally for someone. I mean, whether that's cooking a meal at home and just doing something different, whether that's doodling in a book, whether that's writing a story, singing in the shower, whatever that is, I think that just, as a person, that's really fun and something to do that just takes you away from your normal day-to-day. So, like I say, whether I was ever going to sit down and say, yes, before a certain age, I'm going to write a book. I don't think that was there, but it may have just been in the back of my mind somewhere, never consciously known about it. But when I started doing the process, I really enjoyed it, and it's something that obviously trying to do in the future, and maybe get 1 or 2 more books out of me somewhere if there's any stuck in the memory.
Oh, we could have a first here on Lifestyle Pirates for 2021. You're pretty similar with the old creative juices, aren't you? You like to do the gaming, and when you produce your music, you find that quite cathartic.
Yeah, it is. It's a nice outlet. It's a release. You can sort of disconnect from the world or disconnect from your day job. Not that, I hate my day job. I really love my day job. But yeah, it's sort of like a disconnection where you can sort of unlock a different part of your brain or your personality that isn't usually used in your day-to-day job. So yeah, I can genuinely see that's an exciting thing.
So go on, mate.
No, I just wanted to know. So the step to get the thing off the ground. So take us through the process of the start. So you've had the inspiration, and then all right, day one, you've made the decisions to make this a book. Where did you start? How did it start from that?
I think with any book, the first thing you've just got to do is literally that, is just start.
Right.
Literally just put your pen to paper.
Yeah.
So the first day I started writing, it's quite strange. So the first kind of the kind of flow of the rhythm of the book, that first sentence almost came out pretty much as it is now. It's just very kind of natural and started flowing. When you start writing it, the first few drafts probably came out in probably 2 sessions. I just had some time, thought, this is kind of flowing quite well. This is what's coming out. That's fine. Then you read it back and you think, your first thing you read, you go, oh, this is great, this is brilliant. And then you go, you're not really sure what, if it's that good, you need to take a lot of advice and things like that. So it probably took 2 full sessions to get the first sort of real draft down on paper, enough to sort of show someone. And then you take a bit of advice and it's sort of steps and steps and steps. But it took realistically, it took years to actually get to a position where it was a finished book.
Yeah.
Because being a complete novice writer, and the fact it's written in rhyme as well.
Yeah.
Makes it a lot tricky. So, and obviously being English and my accent,
Yeah.
things that might rhyme in my head and in my voice,
Yeah, I didn't
when
think
you
of
give it
that,
to someone
yeah.
else, you go,
Yeah, give it to an Aussie. It's
Yeah.
a very different.
or certain words had rhyme and certain things were a bit long, and there was things about direction, about, well, where's your story actually going, what are you trying to do? So one of the most important thing and best things I did was I actually joined a writing group when I was I'd had a draft done, but I joined a writing group at and now form a place called the Children's Bookshop. And basically that was just a lot of people who want to be writers sitting around a space once a month, just talking about books and talking about writing. And just from being around these other creative people, it just gives you a little seed and idea and just a bit of a push or something else that's sort of going to help you on your journey. And through that, I just got a lot of recommendations and actually sort of engaged editors, like professional editors, to have a look at it, because, again, it's the first thing I've ever written. And when you're doing something and your name's on the bottom of it, be it a piece of work or a book or whatever it is, you want it to be as good as it's going to be. So rather than me putting something out in the world that was haphazard, getting an editor in to go, that bit's not right, cut this bit down, and just having that idea just really helped the process. So
is that like a grammar police or something?
Well, essentially, yeah. So there's some people who specialise in rhyme. There is sort of grammar police.
There's a lot of them on Facebook. You could have just reached out anyway.
Absolutely. Well, to be honest, it got to the stage, even my old man got to the stage where it was nearly ready, and read through with him, and he's going, well, that should be the other way around, those 2 words and this. And you look at it and go, I don't agree with you, but you're absolutely right. So, and again, when you get so close to something you're writing, it's quite difficult to take that feedback and take that, because you're so close to it and you think, well, no, this is my story. I don't want to change it to, that way round or that phrase, or I don't want to take that bit out. I love that part of the book. And they're like, well, look, it's too long. You need to cut this down. So it's a lot of kind of taking your medicine. And at some point you've just got to go, that's it. I'm happy with it. We're done. How do we sort of move?
Yeah,
on?
100%.
But again, that process with having a full-time job, although it's a picture book, it's 32 pages, it's, you think it's going to be a really short process, because you tell the whole story in that short space of time. Every single word has to matter. You can't have you're just trying to get everything across. And again, with a lot of picture books, they're probably a lot shorter than that. It's the pictures tell the story. But with my particular book, because I knew I wanted to incorporate Bondi, the tower, the bridge, everything.
Even the trains.
And the trains. And to link all those things together in rhyme to get to the end point in the story. It took a while to get there. But
So what writing style is it?
So it's a rhyming picture book. So it's everything is in rhyme and flowing. So
Yeah. That must be hard in itself, trying to make everything rhyme.
Yeah,
Do you have a thesaurus, Howard?
Well, to be honest, I did. There's a book called Rhyme Zone which came into point. But I think what's very important, which I learned from this writers group, is you can't just rhyme for the sake of rhyming, you can't just put something in that doesn't add to the story or doesn't fit. So that in itself is trying to make sure that everywhere you rhyme, it's actually going somewhere.
Yeah.
You're not just throwing in a word because
Just
it
because
rhymes
it
what you
works.
want to say. You need to actually work it around. And if it doesn't work, you need to basically go back, take the whole thing out and find something that does.
Yeah.
So again, it's not perfect, but from where that book is now, is a lot better from where it started. And again, I think when you read it, it does flow. Although it's quite a long book, it does flow quite quickly. And yeah, like I say, I'm very proud of what it from where it was to what it is now and what's happened.
So, question around the rhyming side of things, because you mentioned you engaged an editor. Did you just write it? Did you write the rhyming, or did the editor do the rhyming part?
Yeah, so it was all completely kind of written in rhyme up to a point.
By you?
Yeah, by me. So it was all written in rhyme. And it got to the point when, in terms of, it's partly the grammar, partly the length, and partly it's to do with the meter as well, or the kind of flow of the rhyme. So, like I say, when you're putting the emphasis on certain words, I might have put the emphasis on the start of a word, which is not how you would normally say it in conversation, but I may have done that in my head to make it fit the pattern. So it's about looking at that, going, stop, read this back to yourself. Would you say that in normal conversation, and those sorts of things, just picking those things up?
Yeah. Have you got an example?
Probably not off the top of my head, to be honest. I'd have to go and read through the book. But again, it's one of those things that when you're writing it yourself in your own voice, and I read it a certain way as a Manc and I'm an Aussie, when they're reading it and someone reads it back to me, that's the best feedback I could possibly get. So I'd always get people to read it to me and read it out loud, because they might say it a certain way, and I'm going, well, why are you reading it like that? And they just say, well, that's how I'd read it.
Yeah.
So that's obviously my problem, because I need to work out, how I want people to read it, but also guide people that way, or just understand that not everyone's going to read it the way I am. So making sure it flows and it's clear and it's easy to read. Because again, mostly it's a certain age, it's primary school age, kind of probably aimed. But if you're reading it to a young kid, you just want the parents having an easy time. They're trying to get their kid to bed. You want something they can pick up, go, this is nice, this is fun, you're asleep, move on. Yeah. Like, I'm not trying to, I'm not trying to sort of create the greatest book in the world. It's there to give some happiness, give some joy, and maybe help the kid get to sleep. It doesn't, anything else other than that. But like I say, it does take a lot of work to get to that stage of, again, looking at every single word and making sure that it works for everyone, not just for me.
So I love the fact you were hanging out with fellow book writers and authors, but then were you also testing it on your friends as well to get a quite a balanced
absolutely.
and unbiased kind of view?
Yeah, an awful lot of people were involved in kind of the process. So the amount of friends that I sent it to, either sort of via email, friends at home or friends here, I'd literally sit them down and go, read this to them, and they'd be like, oh, this is great. And you'd have to sort of pick the right people to get honest feedback from.
Yeah. Hosting lots of dinner parties. I've just got something I want to read to you before we sit down over the prawn cocktail.
Yeah. Would you mind just sitting here and putting yourself through this? And again, that was tricky as well, because you need to always pick the right friends to read it to, because some friends are just going to be, that's great, brilliant, well done. And others are going to be, that's good, and give you the feedback you need, really. Because, like I say, sometimes you write this thing and you go, oh, that's great. And then until you sort of step back and read it again and put it in a drawer for a few months and then come back to it, you don't really know. So getting that feedback, and say there's countless people, I could list them all, but we'd be here till next year. So,
and you mentioned about that we focused a bit on the words, right? But you've obviously got the illustration, you've got the character development of Sidney, drawing it, bringing that to life. How did that work as well?
Yeah, so that was quite a long process. Again, I knew straight away when I had the idea of Sidney. I knew, which you can probably see from his hair, I wanted the hair to look like the Opera House Sales. That was part of his kind of character and part of his development. So that's something I sort of flagged straight away. Knowing myself that I couldn't draw, but I knew I had sort of little sketches that I did in the back of a book of all the characters, and I kind of had a rough idea of what I wanted them to be like. But then in terms of then trying to get the thing illustrated, there was a choice between, do I try and get this published by a traditional publisher, or do I go down a self-publishing route? And I think with trying to get a book published from a traditional publisher, it's probably got to be a lot shorter. They take a lot of control. They know exactly what, they'll take an illustrator and engage them, and it just go away from me. And because I knew exactly kind of what I wanted it to be like, I sort of saw it in my head about the cover and everything. I thought, you know what, if I keep self-publish it, I can keep control, I can design the characters and kind of drive this a little bit. So I tried to approach, I think, universities and tried to find someone to, like illustrators, and basically got a lot of portfolios and looked through plenty to find a style that I'd like. Wanting ideally to get an Aussie-based, like a young person to give someone a shout. But I also knew from straight away that I kind of wanted to keep some control of this. So if I could do a second book, or I don't know, Dolls Like This or something else down the track, that I wanted to kind of retain those rights for everything I was doing. So I actually found an illustrator's agent and someone in the style that I was looking for. And then there was a lot of back and forth with that agent via the illustrator saying, look, this is my sketch. This is what I want the hair to look like. This is what I want for the style. Can you give me sort of a few sort of proofs? Found through that a lot of back and forth about the character. And as soon as I saw the first sort of sketch of what Sidney's basically like now, that's exactly what I wanted. That's basically what's in my head that I can't physically do. I'm not an artist. That's not what I do. And I saw that and I thought, that's it. That's the person I'm engaging. But even from then, it's a long process because obviously you've got one character and then it's every page. So you've got the words in a book or on a page and you go, well, I need to fit this into 32 pages. How do I break this down? How do I use the images to sort of tell the story at the same time? And again, with that, because I knew what I wanted to look like in my head, but there's a lot of sketching out. So it was me doing really terrible, rudimentary sketches of every page and then sending them to the illustrator and saying, can you please just do this?
Make it good.
Better. Yeah, really, really good.
There's my stick man.
Yeah,
or
absolutely.
Stick mouse.
Pretty much. And even that it was a battle because, again, I was probably the worst client you could possibly have because I knew exactly in my head what I wanted to be like. And there's certain things that, for example, the Bondi page, I knew I wanted to see all of Bondi. I knew I wanted icebergs in it.
Yeah.
I knew I wanted the pavilion in the background. And then the illustrator was a bit like, oh, maybe you just focus on the mouse, bring it a bit closer. And I was like, I understand where you're coming from, but it's again, it's not just aimed at tourists, but for tourists, you want them to see everything. So it's basically a cartoon world, but in the real world. So all the things in the book, they look like they look. So the concert hall in the Opera House, Bondi, and I wanted to be that specific. So again, I was probably an absolute nightmare saying, oh, can you just do this? Can you add this? But again, it's one of those things that I got what I wanted. Like, and I maybe didn't make the best of friends in the end with the people, but it's what I wanted. And again, I'm really happy with how it's come out.
So who's the illustrator?
It's called Inky Stone.
Okay.
So most of my contact, I don't think I ever actually spoke to them. It was all through the agent.
Oh, wow.
So just that relationship. And again, I think with a traditional book, you just go to a publisher and you might have, they just do it and you've got no say.
Yeah.
So this was a very specific sort of way of doing things. And again, it's not something that would be traditional, but it's just something that knowing how I wanted it to do. I mean, if I could draw, I might have gone down a different route, but it's just the way this kind of project kind of evolved. And again, learning through that, I think if I was to do this again, knowing what I know now in terms of even how I communicated or those early negotiations and things like that, I think it might have been a bit smoother. And I think even if I'd been able to speak directly with the illustrator, it might have been a bit easier because there's always that sending something to someone else and getting passed on. You don't know what's getting passed on. And
of course.
It's always a bit tricky. And you think, well, they're doing amazing work, but I can't even tell them that and give them that feedback. It's all a little bit in the chain. So that was actually quite one of the biggest challenges that I got through was kind of getting my message across, getting things back and just that whole process. So again, it probably explains a little bit why it's taken so long from the original idea to sort of now, which is probably, 4 years plus, is everything's just a stage and it's literally page by page and line by line. So again, it's such a long process it's been, but again, it's the rewards that I've got, again, from where I started, from a stupid idea walking on a hill with some friends to having a book that's now, in shops and things.
It's definitely not a stupid idea. You've created something and given something to the world, and not a lot of people can say that. So, yeah, congratulations on that piece. I was going to ask. Over to you, John. I forgot.
You're doing well.
Oh, no.
Well, my question was going to be, would you do the same again? So you mentioned it from kind of that using an agent and all that. Would you do the same process again?
Probably hand on heart, I think I would.
Okay.
It was difficult and there's a lot of challenges, but I think for this, if it was this particular book again, yes, because I had a very, very clear idea of what I want the character to look like, what I wanted every page to look like. I'm here in Sydney. It's almost like a love letter to Sydney. You're bringing across everything I know and like about Sydney, and it's only I could sort of communicate that. So doing that and that process and saying this is the sketch I want was really the only way I could do this particular book. If I was doing something like another book or something else that wasn't probably quite as close to me or quite as I'm trying to communicate this, but I might just say, here's an illustrator, you go and do what you want. They're professionals, they're specialists, they're brilliant at what they do.
Yeah.
Inky's brilliant at what she's done in this book and would just give them that creative license. It's just for this very specific project, I just knew exactly what I wanted.
Yeah.
So I think, yeah, if I was doing this same book again, absolutely I'd use the same process. Future books, maybe I'd, like I say, get off the leash a little bit and just say, look, you're good at what you do, off you go.
Yeah.
Because they make it better. Like there's a lot of things in that book where there was my sketches and what I got back was just like mind blowing. Go, wow, like how have you done that? There's little touches. For example, there's a page with all the mice sat around eating stew, eating dinner in the opera house, and she created the table as like a little pocket watch.
Yeah.
To sort of create the size and the perspective and just things like that I'd never really think of. And you
That
come
is
back
so
and you
cool.
go and you just go, that's pretty good. And I think that there's a kangaroo on the back of a ferry and just little touches. I mean, a lot of things in there. Some of the touches are very much mine.
Yeah.
So you might say the Aboriginal flag on top of the bridge. There's an ibis in there. There's like cockatoos. There's little things where you go, I just want this in. It's just a little side things. But there's other
Little
bits.
Easter eggs.
Yeah. But then there's other bits in there that are just purely the illustrator and their creativity. So it is a collaborative process, even though I was quite forcefully guiding it at times. There's definitely a little bit in there that's allowing them to kind of go off and do their thing as well.
Yeah. I love the fact you said it was a love letter to Sidney when you were describing it. And when I was, so I've read the book and I also listened to the lady read it as well. I can't remember her name.
Yeah, Zinzi, can you?
Yes. And the pictures of Bondi, the pictures of the Opera House, they were very picture postcard, the ones that expats like you and I would send back home to family to go, hey, we're here, we're okay. And so when you were doing that, I did think it was a big kind of homage to where you're living and where you started your life again.
I think it is. I mean, there's a lot of people like yourself, expats, who may come, like we have settled, and there's people who come here for a few years and go home. But there's always that, when we're so far away from home, people, they might see Sydney on the news, on the postcards and things like that, but that having a personal gift to send home, people who've come out here to sort of say, this is actually where I am, this is something to give back, or even people who move home and say, look, to children, you were born here, or your mum and dad lived here for a while. It's just kind of a nice thing to do. And like I say, I was really keen when doing the book to capture as much of Sydney as I could. So again, a lot of the things in that, you could say they're very touristy, but when you come from wherever you come from, when you see the harbour and you see the opera house and stuff, it's just a spectacular place. So trying to capture all those things and like the ferry and things that are unique to Sydney was quite important to me to get it in there. So again, it probably, not at the time, didn't quite realise that, but when you start getting into this and looking at all the drawings and think, yeah, this is...
But that's also the story of Sydney. He was in a pet shop. He broke out of the pet shop and wanted to explore Sydney, which is what we do, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
So
even locals. I'm still a tourist in my own city sometimes, So tell us, what's the story?
What's the story? So, again, it's not reinventing the wheel too much, but basically it's Sidney, this little mouse. He's trapped inside a pet shop in North Sydney. Basically, dreams of being a singer, but he's just trapped in his poor little shop. There's a mighty storm, which he managed to escape, and then he gets across the bridge and basically explores Sydney. So he goes up the tower to Bondi, meets some little animal friends, and eventually finds the place where he's destined to belong, which is the Sydney Opera House, where he becomes a singer. And that's the concept of the book. Nice. So again, it's it's quite nice. Again, it's at the start, it's kind of trying to take the kids on a bit of a journey. He's in a bad place. He's quite upset, and it's again, you're trying not to be sort of too preach or trying to force something in a book, but there's definitely a message in there about following your dreams and giving something a go and just having a crack at something, which is probably mirrored in the actual process of doing the book. But yeah, like I say, it's just about having a go, following your dreams, and you'll never know where it's going to take you.
Absolutely.
So who's the book for?
I'd say it's probably aimed at sort of primary school age children, but I think it works on many levels. Again, obviously tourists would be an ideal market for it, but with bushfires and a global pandemic, that's not only been the current market's been aimed at. But I think it's got something in there for everyone, from Sydney siders, for anyone that's visited. I tried to write it on a few different levels that appeal for young children with the pictures. There's a few sort of comments and sort of phrases in there that you try and do that Disney thing where there's a little bit in there for adults or something a little bit that's a bit higher and stuff. But whether I've managed that, I'm not too sure. But so like I say, I tried to do it as broad as I could. And again, if you were sitting down to write a book and go, what do you do? That's probably not the way you'd do it. You'd probably aim at a very specific age and specific market. But again, I was winging it a little bit, so it's come out how it's come out, and hopefully, like I say, everyone who reads it, be it a child or a grandparent or a parent, get something from it. Yeah.
As a man who loves a blazer and a pocket square, where was the idea around the get up of Sydney? the tails and the suit?
Yeah, so again, it was a bit of a collaborative thing between myself and the illustrator. Again, the hair was something I obviously knew I wanted. The fact he was going to end up as a singer. Basically, in the book, there's a bit of a progress. So when he first starts in the book, and he's basically in all tatty clothing, it's all kind of pieced together. And at the very end, he's in like a very smart kind of opera singer's get up. So I knew it was going to be like an opera singer's style. And then from there, it's again quite collaborative with the illustrator about the colouring and things. And again, I wanted a green and gold bow tie, just again a nod to Australia.
Yep.
So again, those little tiny things that probably no people reading the book would never know, but I'm going to know. So just little things I stuck in there. So yeah, that's kind of how that evolved. And again, the colouring, I think the colouring of the actual doll is probably a little slightly different to the book, but again, it's something that I just thought, you've done this thing for maybe for a bit of marketing, if you end up doing a signing or you end up having an Instagram page, which I have done, it'd just be nice something to have a bit of a keepsake. When you're old and grey, it's just something that's cool, and it kind of it's come out very well.
And let's face it would be nice to see millions of Sidney, opera mouse toys everywhere around the world, right?
One day it'd be lovely. Yeah, I mean that's again part of the dream. When I first sat down to have this idea, you get a bit carried away with yourself about what it could be, and you think, well, how many people visit the opera house? If this could be their character and it goes well, why not? T-shirts and pencil cases and dolls and everything else that goes with it. And again, it's a bit of a pipe dream. And I even thought to myself, the amount of people that fly over, why not have this one of those short animations or a full little movie on the way over that people can see and just showcase Sydney as you're coming on holiday and all these little things that I would love for it to kind of evolve into. And it's who knows where it's going to go from here.
Absolutely.
But again, it's pipe dreams, isn't it? But then who knows? Because I never thought I'd actually go from an idea to a book on the shelf, and then from the idea of a book on the shelf to actually having it animated and read professionally by someone in the opera house is every single step of this has been completely surreal and completely surpassing what I thought it would ever be. So I think you just got to enjoy the ride a little bit. And if it ends tomorrow and all the books get pulped and that's it, then that's what it was. That's great, but who knows where it could go.
It will not end tomorrow. We're going to get you on the Qantas incoming flights video. That's a great idea. The goal for 2021.
Or maybe Etihad, because they're the Sydney Opera House's partner, I believe.
There you go, Etihad. There you go. We heard it here. Can I ask? You say it was a 4-year process from that initial walk to holding something in your hand. Did you get any legal help? Trademarking. I appreciate you're passing these images back and forth.
Yeah.
I would be petrified about someone stealing my idea.
Absolutely, and I was, to be honest, at the start, particularly with the first draft and things, because in my head I was like, this is a great idea. I don't want someone else stealing this and running with it and sort of getting in there first. But in terms of the legal help, it's more to do with the contracts between the illustrators. So when I was sending to send the illustrator and say what I wanted, I had to send them obviously a bit of the story to know what they were kind of getting into. Yeah. So there's a lot of non-disclosure agreements and things like that. So luckily I've got a few friends who are lawyers who helped me out with that, which was really, really good. And I think once I got more into that process, although I'm happy I did it just to protect myself, I think you realise that a lot of people in the book industry, particularly the children's book industry, they're not really in it to make a fortune. It's just not really a lucrative business unless you're one of the top 2%.
Yeah.
A lot of people in this business are just generally good people who want to do it for the right reasons, and they're not going to steal your idea. They've got their own, and also I think you can probably prove that it's yours anyway at some point. So there's, I'm quite risk averse anyway, partly doing the job I do day to day. But so I was quite conscious of that. But I think the more I got into that process, the more I realised that I was probably overthinking it and probably being overcautious. So although I did go down those steps, I probably didn't need to. A lot of people are just trying to do the right thing. And again, for an illustrator, it's what they're going to be doing for the next however many weeks or months. So they're going to want to do something they either feel attached to or something. And, obviously it is a job for them and they'll probably do most things, but they want to be doing something they enjoy. So if I've had a couple of people who looked at it in the early process of getting a few drafts and they looked and said, this is great, but I either don't have the time or it's just not my style or not for me. And that was fine. Or a couple of people said, look, I actually work directly for these massive publishers. I don't really do stuff with self-publishers. Good luck, that's fine. So there's a lot of that kind of process where, again, not knowing what I'm doing is a lot of learning along the way that kind of got me to the point I got to.
Were there any surprises on the negative side? It sounds like it's been a long journey, but very supportive in from a community side and friendship side. Were there any negatives?
Maybe not negatives. I mean, there's a lot of learning lessons, particularly with the communication with the illustrator and things like that, and probably maybe overstepping on my part, even where I was saying I wanted it a certain way, But then you take that both ways. Say, well, I'm paying for that service. I know what I want. At the same time, I don't know where the level was of me sort of stepping back and going, that's fine, you leave it. So there was probably a little bit of that on my part and micromanagement and just, again, just being so close to it that I probably at times maybe should have stepped back and said, look, you get on with it. It's going to be good. You know, they're professionals. They know what they're doing. They're brilliant. So more lessons rather than negatives. Like I say, with anything that's going to take that long and you put so much of it yourself into, there's always going to be a bit of a roller coaster about good days, bad days. You might read it a certain day and go, oh, that's wrong, or that doesn't sound right. You think it's rubbish and you just want to chuck it away. And there's other days you'll go back and do something to it and you go, oh, I cracked this. This is great. It's going to sell, however many it's going to sell. So, like I say, just lessons against when you do something, anything that's brand new to you, you're always going to learn things along the way.
And was it quite a cash intense exercise?
I think it was. I think, again, it's very different how you would do it. So if you went through a publisher, you may get a very small advance for actually doing the book, and then they would run with it and they'd have all the costs. With this being a self-published thing, and also because I was wanting to keep the rights to the characters so I could do future things, I decided to have an agreement where I just paid a one-off fee for the book, and then I would own the characters. So by doing that, I'd probably either pay the premium or I'd say maybe a fair price for that. And there's a lot of things that, again, if I was to do this again, I probably would be able to save a lot of money doing it. So I went to certain like editors or a couple of people I spoke to. I also actually, to get this off the ground, to sort of learn how to actually produce a book, I paid someone a consultancy fee. So he'd actually written some books himself. He's a head teacher. And very helpfully gave me a couple of hours of his time. And I think the consultancy fee I paid him was going to help to like build a school in Nepal or something like that. So he's a generally good guy. But he was the guy that sort of said, well, I've self-published books. I said, look, well, how do you do this? Like, how do you get a printer? How do you actually get the words on the page? What are all these steps? And he's the person that gave me some contacts for typesetters, for like say, publish in China, about distribution, import, all these other things that kind of have fees and things attached to them. So I wouldn't have been able to do this without having that knowledge. But all those steps obviously there was costs incurred with that. But again, once I got into this, it was never a money-making thing. When I probably had the first seed of idea, you do think, oh, this could be massive. This could, make me some money and what have you. But when you get into it, you think, well, I'm not doing this for money. It's doing it because it's a hobby. It's, say you play golf or play sport, you spend money on your stuff. It's the same thing. It's just spending money on something you enjoy doing. So again, whatever this cost me to do, it was worth it just for the learning experience and just for the enjoyment that it's given me. So like I say, if that one day tourists come back and it sells, thousands and millions of copies, whatever it's going to be, that's just a bonus. But it's just more about the process and putting your money into something you enjoy doing.
Would you leave your day job and become a full-time author?
It's not a realistic question, unfortunately. I don't know, to be honest. I actually really enjoy my day job.
Yeah.
It gives me a lot of I'm a liability loss adjuster, so I investigate insurance claims, and it's very varied. I'm not stuck in an office every day, and it's something I get a lot of enjoyment out of.
Yeah. Wow, that's a big contrast.
Yeah, and it is. Yeah, I mean that's probably why I enjoyed it so much. So it's being so creative as opposed to something where my writing in a day-to-day context is writing basically facts and long reports that are just straight down the line. Whereas this gave me something I could write about whatever I wanted. That's the kind of the joy of writing. You could start and it can go absolutely anywhere you want it to. So it's
liberating.
Yeah. So again, to answer your question, I can't see it realistically happening. It's something I'd like to continue to do, maybe in retirement, or saying that if I wrote the next Harry Potter or something, then I start making that much money, then we'll have a different conversation. Maybe I'll do 3 days a week. But, but for now, it's not something that's anywhere near my thought process. It's just something I've done in my spare time, and hopefully, again.
So being self-published, you own the IP. Are there any more journeys for Sidney coming?
Hopefully, yeah. Again, I've got a few other kind of ideas that are already on paper for kind of other books. With Sidney, because I've always started that first journey, there's so many kind of seeds of ideas of where I could take him. I think at the moment doing some overseas travel might be a little bit dicey, but there's a few things where I'd like to take him. I know the Opera House in a couple of years have a 50th anniversary coming up. So maybe trying to link something in with that is something that's in the back of my mind about trying to do something. But I'm also very conscious that I don't want to do something just for the sake of it. I've left the book open-ended so I can do it, but I've no interest in just finding out a book that's not going to be good or not going to offer anything new. I want to do something that's either going to be fun or enjoyable for people, or tell a new story or tell a message. I'm not interested in just firing something out for the sake of it. So there's definitely seeds of ideas there, and it's again trying to find the time to sit down and work on those and see if they're right. It's definitely something I'd like to do, but I think with anything creative, I think if you try and force it too much, it's not going to be its true self. True. I'm just hoping I'll still get that light bulb moment where I can just sit down and go, this is it, this is the next one. So yeah, fingers crossed, but who knows.
How did it feel to hold the book when you got the first one, or even when you got the toy? How did it feel?
Very surreal, very surreal. So I mean, I'd had a few sort of samples through. So from the printers in China, we'd got a few through, and they were kind of okay, right, not quite sure. So holding the book for the first time was a bit strange. I think the real moment was when I saw it first on the shelf. So I went into I think it's the library in Sidney, in the shop there. I saw it, and for whatever reason, they'd managed to put it on the top of the shelf in a really good position. So I walked in thinking, I might be able to root through some shelves and see where it is, and it's just on the top of the shelf, and it was in between, I think, like a Mem Fox or some incredible authors, and it's just sat there on the top of the shelf. And I'm just thinking, what is going on here? Yeah. And I'm there taking a picture of it, and I'm saying to the people, I'm really sorry, but this is my first book, the first thing I've seen. I'm thinking, what is going on? How has this got to this point from where it was? So yeah, that was a real. That
must have felt amazing.
A really pinch yourself moment. Yeah, just again, because knowing all the kind of blood, sweat, and tears and work that's gone into it. That's kind of the nice thing to see, seeing it on the shelf, and even that. I mean, that's probably the highlight. But then one of the best things I think from all of this is when you sort of friends of family or people they'll send you pictures of them sitting with their little boy or girl reading it, and there's smiles on faces, or they're posing as they've had it for Christmas or whatever it may be. That's a great feeling, because that's what you do it for. It's to have someone put a bit of joy in the world and see some smiles and stuff. So that was great as well, seeing those sort of things.
On that, I noticed you've been getting a bit of press back home in the Knutsford Guardian.
Absolutely, yeah.
How has it gone back down at home with your friends and your family? I guess people that know, Hosco, or you people didn't probably refer to you as Hosco because that's an Aussieism, but people that knew Graham before you moved over here, what's their take on it been? How has it gone down?
It's been very interesting. So a lot of friends, my sort of closest friends, would have known for a long time and known the process. But again, because it's so left field from what I normally do, they sort of say, you've written a book, and they're like, what are you talking about? Where's this come from? We don't believe you. Yeah, this
is a kid's book as well.
This is nonsense. You haven't got children. This is weird. But yeah, so it's been quite a process. I mean, there's been a lot of mostly it's been really positive, because I think everyone's just gone, I can't believe you've done this. And I think most of the feedback I've had was a lot of people saying, even regardless of the book being good or bad, they're quite sort of positive about the fact I've actually done something, as in completed it. So a lot of people have an idea or a seed of an idea, but then following that all the way through to actually having a physical book, I think that's probably the most feedback I've had, is that just really sort of proud or happy or, appreciative of the fact you've actually gone through with it and finished it and had something that's there tangible, as opposed to saying, I've had an idea for this or that, the other, and never actually taking it anywhere. So that's probably been the most feedback. And again, some of it's been very surprised, like, how have you done this, or what's going on, or let's see what's going on. But yeah, it's been really nice having that side of things. And again, probably connecting with some people that I hadn't connected with for a long time. So they might be a Facebook friend or an old school friend or something like that, and they'll be like out the blue messaging going, oh my God, you've written a book, what's going on?
What?
This is great. Like, yeah, I knew you'd gone to Australia, but I kind of forgotten you existed.
What are you drinking over there?
Yeah.
So it's when your old teachers reach out and you go, oh, Jesus, am I going to get a bollocking now? Or?
Well, actually, one of my old English teacher, I did actually reach out to him early in the piece to get his comments on it. So he was very happy to see it. Brilliant. Finished as well. And again, my old form tutor and stuff, just really, really kind of kind words and stuff. And it's nice to see those people who, again, you've not connected to for a long time. And just kind of, just it's quite nice to reinvigorate those connections as well, just from this little idea. So it's another bonus from what's happened.
Look, it's definitely been a lot of the themes that we've seen when we've had people on the show. One, when they come up with an idea, is that they execute. Lots of us have good ideas, but two, they surround themselves or they seek out supportive groups, or networks that are actually going to help them rise to the challenge and the occasion and learn, rather than perhaps their normal groups that are going to say other things, or why, or start to question. So that's definitely something that I took away from a lot of the shows we did last year.
And I'd say from that as well. Again, one of my things around the book. It's not just a book. You need to have a website and things to sell it. So again, our mutual friend, Frankly Creating,
Yep.
was the person who did my website. And again, sort of when you've got friends who are in certain industries and you kind of, they're going to be good at what they do, but if you're not directly related to them, you don't really know. When she started going through the website and actually taking the images from the book and putting them in certain ways and things like that, you just think, wow, these people are really talented. And again, that's another sort of thing where I can just look at that and again, it's all their work, none of mine, but it just looks great. And you think, well, this is, again, just something when this first started, I never thought I'd have this website that looks this good, that has all these certain things on. So there's like colouring in sheets that you can download and kids
cool.
Can put in. I decided to do a teaching, get some teaching notes done. So I engage a professional teacher to do some notes. So say if I can get this into schools, they can sit through and go certain things that are actually on the curriculum that link to the book. So without that website and other things, these other things couldn't happen. So again, you're right, touching into people friends of friends, people with knowledge. And I think part of the skill is just working out what you don't know and just stepping back and going, okay, I need help here. This isn't, stay in your lane. What do you need to know? Who do you get in? I think I've done that quite well with this project. I've known when I don't know, and step back and said, this is the person I need. This is what help I need. So it's been really, really useful.
And that's a massive learning as well, is understanding where your skills are and then surrounding yourself with other people. It's like the CEO of a business isn't the one that can do everything. They're the one that can lead and they direct people to do other things. So they're complementing.
Absolutely. And I think my day job probably helped in that as well. So investigating claims, you're turning up to find out what's gone on. So you're there to get the facts. You go in acting like the most stupid person in the room, which normally is the case, to be honest. And you go, tell me what you know and let's talk until I understand it. And it's the same sort of thing. You just need to go with an open mind and go, look, I'm not the expert here. I know where I'm going, but let's find out how we get to the end result. It's basically the same process. It's leaning on other people's knowledge and just taking that feedback and going in the right direction.
Maybe a self-indulgent question. Why didn't you use a pseudonym? Or did that question even come up? Did you think about that at all?
Yeah, I did think of that, to be honest. I think I had that idea and I thought, do I steer clear of work and things like the other? And I thought, you know what? I'm the one doing the work here. I'd like to have my name on the front of a book. Why not? It's a bit self-indulgent. It's a bit vain or whatever. But yeah, why not? I mean, here's my name. I did it. So let's stick it there. Why not?
Yeah, of course.
I love it. And for someone that's, I guess, listening, watching this, gone, actually, I've had an idea for a long time. I've struggled to put pen to paper. Knowing what you've kind of taken out the last 4 years and beyond now, because we're now live with Sidney.
Yep.
What would be some of the points that you pass down or give them to start the process?
I think first I'd say just do it. Get pen on paper. That's the first way to start. I mean, from there you can edit, you can work on things. But I think if you've got a seed and idea, just get pen on paper, get it down, see where it is, and then from there, I'd say joining a writing group of some description or some writer society or something, just to get those ideas going. So when you're around people who either do it every day or in that same field, you're going to pick up tips and things. And again, I've got very lucky with how this has all gone, having the right contacts to get through the opera house and things like that. I've got very lucky. So not everyone who sits down to write a book is going to write a book that maybe get published, but I'd say do it anyway because it's such a good process. It's something you've always got. It's something you could read to your friends, to your family, or have yourself and time to be done. So I think just start. If it's something you enjoy doing, just start, get it on paper, and everything else will work itself out after that.
So when you started out, did you have like an action plan that you wanted to follow, and how quickly did that action plan change?
I don't know. I think at some stage, sort of through the process, maybe 6 months in, I did sort of set myself a deadline and go, this weekend we're going to sit down and work on this. But until then, not really, because it's a passion project and it was something I wanted to do.
Yeah.
But aside from someone else stealing the idea and doing it first, there wasn't really any deadline. It was all on me. So I might have been a bit more quicker or focused if I had that. But it was never something that I said, day one, we're doing this, day one, we're doing, day two, we're doing this and working through. It was very much, we've started writing it. I'll do it when my head's in the right space, if I'm relaxed, if I've got the free time to do it. It was never something I was going to force in because I thought if I did that, if I kind of squeezing it in between work or other things, it probably wouldn't have been where it needs to be. I think when you're trying to think
becomes a chore rather than
when you're thinking creatively, I think you just need to be in that mindset where you just kind of flows. Whereas if you're trying to squeeze it in and say, I have to write this today, it's probably not going to be where it needs to be. So I think when I do think of ideas for books, it's normally when I'm, like I say, out walking or something like that. It's when you're kind of in a relaxed sort of non-work mode. I think if you're trying to squeeze things in around other things, not for me anyway, that doesn't really work.
Yeah.
It sounds like you get a lot of energy from the actual practice of writing. Did you always want to do kids' books? Would you have done other books?
Next one's a murder novel.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, featuring Sidney, an adult novel featuring Sidney. Yeah, I think I just want to. I think this was the idea I had, and that's what's come to me. If tomorrow I walk out and have an idea for, I don't know, like I say, a murder novel or a sitcom or anything like that, that's what I'll write. I don't think there's any.
That's awesome.
I don't think there's no rules really.
Yeah.
I mean, you can do it. The joy of writing and being creative. You can have a go at anything, and I might try and write a novel or a sitcom or something. It might be absolutely terrible. Who knows? And again, it's just, I don't know, serendipitous or luck or whatever it may be. But this is, for whatever reason, the book that fell into my head and fell onto the page and is where it is. So I can't overthink it too much. It is what it is.
So how long? Sorry, John.
I was going to say, I think we should connect him with Nick Dunn, the comedian, because he had a good sitcom idea. Maybe you guys could help each other out.
That would be fantastic, actually. I really want to see that sitcom come to fruition as well. So how long have you been in Oz?
So it's probably,
I'm guessing you're not from Australia.
No.
No.
No, it's January 2013 was when I moved over.
What made you choose Oz?
I'd actually been here before travelling. I knew probably a handful of people who lived over here. I knew I liked the place. And basically, it was the work opportunity that sort of drove me over here and to make the move. So it wasn't. I think a lot of people, post uni or whatever, they kind of had this idea that they're going to emigrate and make the move, and that was never really on the cards for me. I was very happy where I was living. I was living with some friends. I was living near home and just kind of enjoying my life and kind of plodding along, and it was all fine. And it was just kind of a stroke of fortune or luck or bad luck or however you want to call it that sort of led me to Australia.
I love it how you're from the UK and you can come over to Australia and explain Australia to the rest of the world better than I can. And I live here.
Yeah, it's just good fortune that is basically I'm made redundant in the UK and got a job opportunity. Literally, I think one day I've been working in the UK, sort of freelancing and things after losing my job and being made redundant. And I found a recruiter in Australia. I think I was hungover or drunk or something. I thought, this is a good idea. I'll just sort of see what's going on either side of the world. Just have a look.
When all the best decisions are made.
Absolutely, yeah. And I basically found this recruiter who put me in touch with my now boss, although we have moved companies since we came here. And he was from sort of same part of the world as I was from, just happened to be in Sydney. There happened to be a job. He knew of people I knew. So my interview for the job was pretty straightforward. And it's like, okay, I'm moving to the other side of the world. So again, without that decision to fire off that CV, without that boss being in that role at the time and knowing people, who knows where's going to go. It's all these sort of tiny moments that, take you on the journey that you're going on. And often you're not in control of them. You just got to ride the wave and kind of make the most of the opportunities that come in front of you.
And have the courage as well. I'm always in admiration for people that make the move, wherever you're going. But there's two Poms that have made it to Australia. It's not an easy thing to start again. Some people relish the challenge, but it takes a lot of courage to get on the plane and get off the plane on the other side.
It does, but there's again knowing a few people here. There was a small support network when I arrived, which was very helpful. But it's definitely a process and definitely a journey. But I think when you leave, everyone at the time, I think I had a 457 visa to come through, so I was quite lucky. But everyone was saying, are you emigrating? Are you moving forever? What's going on? Are we going to see you again? I said at the time, it's like, I don't know. I mean, I'll go there, and if I like it, I'll stay, and if I don't, I'll come home. There's nothing's going to stop me doing that. So, that's where we are, and we're 8-9 years down the track, wherever it is now, and we're still here, so I'm still enjoying it, and there's no reason to go back. So, well, apart from family and friends, of course, but
of course,
but in terms of professional life and the opportunities here, and obviously looking at the current situation around the world, I feel very, very fortunate to be where I am.
So Australia's home.
Absolutely. Well, I think home's always home. I think coming as a Pom, John will probably understand this. You do feel a little bit divided at all times because I feel like I've got two homes. When I go home to the UK, see my friends and family, it's fantastic and I love it. But obviously coming back here, when you get on that plane, you do feel like you're coming home because it's where I spend my time. And I've got loads of friends here as well. And again, John says this very often, that your friends become your family out here. That's your support network. So I feel, again, it's a strange feeling being an expat, because you do feel like you've got two homes. So you're always kind of happy in both places, but always conflicted.
Yeah.
So it's a strange one. But again, I can't say I'm so fortunate to be where I am, and those little small decisions that I've made along the way have, definitely.
Is it an easy transition?
I think there's definitely challenges. Because obviously everything that you know and love and home comforts and just that support network being so close is, you're missing that. But again, the friends you make here, I think you bond so much quicker than you would sort of a normal friend back home, because you're all in the same boat. You all kind of know you're going through the same things.
Yeah.
And again, we're very lucky, coming to Australia, because it's the same language, driving the same side of the road. It's very similar cultures.
Yeah, that's.
It's probably the easiest place in the world you could choose to move to. And again, would I have the courage to, I don't know, move to Europe or a different language speaking place? I don't know.
Yeah.
So again, I think I got very lucky with the opportunities that have come through, and I must have been doing something right because I'm still here. So again, we've got some really good network of friends, and I think a lot of people generally are supportive, and I think there's a lot more nice people out there than there are bad people. So I think if you look for them, you're always going to find people to support you and help you. So.
What's the weirdest thing that Australians do in comparison?
How long are you going? Let's put me on the spot there. I don't know. There's a few things.
You weren't expecting that, eh?
No, there's a few things that I still can't quite get my head around. The 50-cent piece that's the size of a discus. It's just absolutely ludicrous. Like, what's the point in that? It's just too big. The whole thing about crossing the road where you get the green filter to go, but then the people are crossing. I'm like, well, why? Just wait. Just let people cross first. I think if you come to the country day one, you can end up flattening a few people. So there's a few little nuances there that are different, but I think it's pretty similar.
There's some language ones as well.
There's a few language ones.
I remember the first time I asked someone if they were all right.
Oh yeah, that's
and they were like, yeah, why? And it was quite a prominent thing to say. I think it was more like they thought I was upset rather than going, how you going?
Well, that's it.
Yeah,
first time
you guys don't even say, "Are you all right?" It's like, "All right,
all right." Yeah, it's just a greeting. Well, first time someone said, "How are you going?" I was like, I'm not going anywhere. What are we talking about? I haven't got a clue. What? No, all right, yeah, good. And little things like that you just pick up, and even phrases like "no dramas" and things like that, no worries. You're like,
no whackers.
Yeah, just like, all right, yeah. I mean, certain things you pick up. But now, I'll probably go back home and to them, I'll be saying these phrases, and they'll be like, "Oh, you've changed, mate. What are you doing?" Like that? So, but some of them I quite like. It's I can just pick them up without realising.
It's a very romantic colloquialism, the old Aussie accent.
Oh, I remember the first time going back to the UK, and checking in for the old cheeky Pizza Express, and you got the menu in front of you, the family there, and they're like, "Oh, what would you like?" And I said, "I'll go this, and I'll go that, and I'll go that," and everyone was, "What?"
Yeah.
Rather than "I'll have."
Yeah.
Just things you get used to.
Yeah, that's it.
Probably helps having a Queenslander wife as well, but just those subtle nuances when it comes to language side of things. So on the support network, that's been very important for you and your move and your creation here. I mean, man, let's talk about Sidney. What's his support network looking like in the future? Are we going to have spin-off characters? Is he making friends, or is he traveling other places? What does the 2021 look like for this mouse?
Oh, well, I mean, there's a few characters in that book that you could do sort of spin-offs for. One of the characters in particular, Benny the Seal. So that is the seal that sort of hangs out at the Opera House. So it's known to a few times.
Benny the Seal.
And it's called that because of Benny Point. That's what some of the staff at the Opera House would call him. That's what he's known as. So I was trying to get that in. So there's maybe avenues there, but I think Sidney is the main character. I think that's the one I'd like to develop a bit more of. And like I said, the way the book ends with his adventures, they've only just begun. It does lead into a few other things that can be done. Again, I think the opportunity, the exposure that I've had through the animation and the content piece as well, kind of leads into that as well. It just gives that people a little bit of a, wanting a little bit more. So hopefully there's something there I can feed off. And
has the illustrations driven more creativity?
Potentially. I think it's when I sort of sat down and actually saw them and step by step, it does sort of feed into that. And I think and being part of that writing group or just immersing yourself in that world. So now sort of if I go into a shop or to a bookshop, I'll automatically go to the picture books and see who's doing what and what's going on there. So I think just it's almost like turning that tap on. Once you've started doing something in that manner, it does sort of feed into things. So again, I might be somewhere and think, oh, that's a little idea. I'll jot that down. And whether those ideas have yet got off the ground or they're just rubbish, who knows? But it definitely sort of gives you that tweak to sort of start sort of thinking in that space again. So.
I've almost got a sense that. Are you familiar with the children's cartoon called Bluey? That all the kids are going for it. They're going mad for it at the moment. The dog. It's brilliant. Yeah.
It's brilliant.
Any excuse to watch children's TV. I've got a sense.
It's about a ginger.
It's a blue dog.
No.
Dog, hence called
nickname.
Hence Bluey. Maybe there's a little vibe going on there for you. What was the decision? How did it work about selling online against the shop side of things? Are you noticing more people are picking it up in shops? Is online bigger for you guys?
Yeah, so it was very important to have like an online, just my own shop, just so I could basically sell it to friends and family in the UK when I couldn't get it across and things like that. But I think obviously getting into shops was huge, because a lot of shops, they wouldn't just buy the book from me directly. They has to go through like a distributor. So that was a sort of step, trying to find the right person, someone who would actually want to partner with my book. And again, this all kind of came back to the Opera House as well. So I was very lucky that when I had my idea, I knew a friend at the Opera House who put me in contact with the right people who would basically say, we'll let you do this book. There'll be a licensing agreement because you're leveraging off our brand and off the hair and things like that. And we're not going to pay for it or anything, but if you do this, we'll look at getting it partnered with our shop, who's separate from the Opera House. And from there, it was like, well, okay, who supplies to that shop? Here's the contacts. So there's a lot of conversations around who I need to speak to, how I get to that point. So I got a name of my distributor is Paribo Books. Had the name, had the contact, had the conversation, went and sat down with them, had a great meeting with them, and just sort of talked through it and said, look, this is what I've done. Are you prepared to basically represent me and take this out to shops? So that's basically what they do for me now. They supply to the Opera House, or they'll go to various bookshops or other retailers and just say, look, we've got this book. Would you want to stock it? So yeah, without that, I mean, it's just not feasible for me to go and knock on every bookshop and say, would you have a relationship with me? So it's all through them that gets it in those certain places. I mean, there's, again, some of the shops have been incredibly supportive, and just putting it in the right place, because obviously there's so many books out there and such a big market of people wanting their book on the shelf. So it's, where's it going to go? Will they put it in the window? Things like that. So there's a lot of again, a lot of their work that's been done. That's again something that I couldn't do. You just sort of say, look, how do we do this? How do we get this in the shop? There you go. That's in your lane, off you go, sort of thing. So they've been brilliant.
And were they? I mean, an idea that's just come to my mind is about putting it in hospitals, putting it in daycares, facilities, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Would they look at something like that as well?
Yeah, I think so. I think mostly they supply to bookshops. There's things that places that I'd love to get it. I mean, there's a couple of libraries, I believe, but yeah, I mean, ideally, you sell a fortune, you can just give them away to people. It'd be great to have them in, like, say, hospitals or one on the house, or these sort of places where it'd be just nice to give them to. But obviously, the position I'm in with the outlays I've done and what have you, I'm probably not yet in that position to do that. Yeah. And because there's royalties to the Opera House, I can't just give away books as there's things there. So yeah, again, it's something that ideally, if this went gangbusters one day, it'd be fantastic just to rock up to a hospital and go, here's a book for every kid, all those sort of things.
When it goes gangbusters.
Yeah, of course.
Visualize the win. Yeah. Visualize the win when it goes gangbusters. Mate, brilliant. Well, we're going to finish up with one of my final questions, which you always hate, and it always surprises everybody. But I love asking it. You got a table book for 4 people.
Yep.
You're going out for dinner. Who's the 3 that you take them for dinner, and why?
Are you paying? Because I might bring you.
I can put the Amex behind it.
It's a waste of a chair.
I know.
Jesus!
Wow,
that was hard.
So 4 people myself, or myself?
There's you and 3 people,
wow.
And they can be anyone. They can be dead or alive.
Wow.
Who would they be and why?
That's very interesting. You put me on the spot there. I think
that's the point of it.
Here we go. Let me think. Tell you what. I'd like Bob Mortimer to be there. He's a very, very funny man.
Okay.
I think he'd keep us all entertained. I'd probably Paul Gascoigne, being an English football fan, because I think he'd have a few stories to tell.
100%.
And who else do we stick in there? Just want to mix it up. Let me have a think. I don't know. I tell you what, again, English sports fan.
Yep.
Maybe someone like Alistair Cook. Someone I'd like to pick their brain as a cricket fan. I like to sit there and pick his brain about stuff. So it's not going to be the most insightful thing in the world, but put me on the spot there. I think they're the first 3 names that pop into the head. So
perfect. Okay.
I'll go for that.
Awesome. Now we're going to do one more, because I'm going to ask Sidney, but you're going to have to obviously respond.
Okay.
If Sidney is in a photo with a celebrity around the world, who would it be?
Interesting. Tell you what, I think I'd say, I mean, just in terms of children's books and what he's doing, like it's probably someone like, say, is it Dead or Alive, or is this a current celebrity?
It could be whoever you want.
I'd say, well, if you're looking at, it's going to be like a Roald Dahl or a David Williams or someone in that author space who's just, like I say, having someone who's been there, done it with children's books to sort of pick their brain, have that knowledge. Or I'd say Julia Donaldson probably as well would be someone who's obviously done a lot of books like The Gruffalo written in rhyme. Would be someone that would be good. Again, maybe at the dinner party as well. Maybe we stick Alistair Cook out the side and stick her in there and pick her brain about rhyming books and how to crack on with that.
Because Ronald Dahl was quite a big inspiration for you, wasn't it?
Yeah, I'd say, Roald Dahl. I mean, a lot of the books I read as a child were from him, so they're kind of either a bit gross or a bit rude or a bit stupid. Really imaginative, made up words. I think that's, as a kid, I think growing up in the UK, that's probably bread and butter for a lot of people our age. That were just really good fun and that,
Same in Oz.
Yeah, so I'd say it's just that sort of just wacky stuff that really captures your imagination. You want a book. It doesn't matter what a kid's reading; it's just what grabs them. And what grabbed me at that age was wacky, stupid, immature stuff, and it's probably still to this day, I'd probably read them and still enjoy them now. So, yeah.
Where do we find your book, by the way?
So I've got a website, grahamhosking.com.
Yep.
It's in obviously the Sidney Opera House shop. You can find me. There's a Sidney the Mouse Instagram page as well, which is SIDNEY, the mouse. And obviously, if you Google Graham Hosking or Sidney Opera Mouse, there's obviously this a reading or live animation of the book that's been read. So it's a Play School presenter, Zinzia Kenyu, and they've animated sections of the book. So it's about a 10-minute watch, but it's a cracking watch. What they've done with it from the pages is incredible. So that's probably a good starting point to give that a watch, see if you like it, and then you do that, and then buy a book for your friends and family and everyone you've ever met.
Of course. Thank you very much. We'll leave the links in the description. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, Graham, thank you very much for joining us on the first Lifestyle Pirates of 2021, telling us Sidney the Opera House story, introducing us to Sidney himself, and obviously showcasing the book as well. Well done on the journey so far. It's pretty amazing. I encourage everybody to go and check it out, whether you have kids, nieces, nephews, friends, family. Give it a listen, give it a purchase, support our man Graham Hoskins here. Wishing everybody a happy new year for 2021. Cheers.
Thank you.